Hello. Now that we have a new document, let's get ourselves oriented at where all the tools are. First off, all your tools for Adobe InDesign are located right here. There are well over 30 tools. We're not going to touch them all. And if you see a check mark next to the tool, that means it's on the screen right now. So we have, and the ones we're going to need for this is we're going to need a control panel, which is generally default on. We're going to need a page panel, and we're going to need a toolbar, of course, and then we're going to need the character and the paragraph panels. Okay, so I have them all open here. This is your page panel. I'll bring it to the center so we can look at it. You can see here it's only one page. There's two sections to this page panel. If you hover here to see this section up at the top. This section we're not going to use. This is actually more for a deeper dive into publication layout. But this section at the bottom here is actually the live active document that you're working on. So I'm just going to put that over to the side real quick. Here's your toolbars. Toolbars has two selection tools. One is called a selection tool, which is the standard tool that we have in most applications. And then the other one is called a direct selection tool. We'll get into that a little bit later when we start working with some images. There is a T for your typography tool. If you hover above any of the tools and give it a split second, it will actually give you the name of the tools. So there's your type tool. We're going to come down here. We're going to go to the shape tool, which is this one here. Default is a rectangle, but if you right-click into it, you'll see an ellipse and a polygon tool. Oops. If you look above it, there's a rectangle tool with an X through it. This is actually a content tool. It actually will hold images or drawings, photographs, illustrations, anything that's an image can go in there, and then you can use it to hide and crop out parts of the image. So there's a uniqueness about that tool, which we'll get into a little bit later. And then here is the line tool, very simple tool. Today we're going to start off with using the type tool, which is right here. I'm going to leave this on the workspace for today. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so we can see here. Type tool, just simply click it. And what you want to do with the type tool is we're going to do what's called a left click, and you're going to hold that click before you let go. So you're going to left click, hold it, and then you're going to drag while holding that click. And that draws a box. So graphic design or the graphic design tools oftentimes utilize your left hand in order to do certain keyboard actions in order to make your work a little bit more efficient. I want to teach you some of those as we go along. This one here is holding down the shift key. If you hold down the shift key while you're left click and drag, it will actually form a perfect square. You can see the dimensions of the box kind of expand and go, with the ghost window there. If you let go, it continues to make a rectangle in any shape or size that you like. I'm just going to let go here. And so this box is the content box for all the text. So if I were to fill it up with text, it would just be within this box, not the entire page. I want to simply type my name today, because this may lead to the other projects that we're working on. And so if I were to highlight the text like you normally do, the control panel, there are two control panels here. I have the text control panel, which is a very robust and has lots of controls on it. You can also find your information up here in the control bar. It tells you what font you're using. You can simply, if you want to choose a different font, you can just simply choose it like any other application. You can choose the size of the font. The maximum is 72 inches, 72 points on the panel, but you can actually enter in manually 700, 120 or 120 points if you want manually. Just a general rule of thumb, 72 points equals to 1 inch on a ruler. So we can measure, we can actually effectively measure how tall a font is just by giving a measurement and then multiplying it by 72 to get, much taller fonts. And then also up here, let's see here. So there's your type tool. Um, and then I want to put a shape down now. So coming down here to get a rectangle tool. And a rectangle tool is the same action. You're going to left click and hold it and then drag. And I want to left click and hold it. And I'll make a square. Maybe right about there. So now, whoops. I'll zoom in just a little bit here. You'll notice here, here's my rectangle or my shape that I just drew. You're always bouncing back between a tool and the selection tool. So the selection tool helps you be able to choose which box you want to control. So I want to control this one here. The one thing you want to be familiar with is that the different terminology here is that the shape actually has a stroke, which is the outside, and that's like a perimeter, and then what's called the fill. And you can find the two indicators of what you're using right here at the bottom of the toolbar or in the control bar. I'm going to use the toolbar for this demo. So for instance, this says it has a black stroke and then a no fill. There's a handy swap button right here that you can push, and then you can swap it, and then now it has a black fill and no stroke. But you do see a blue line here, right? And then there's a blue line here. So basically, these are just guidelines. These do not print when you actually print the document. They're just there to indicate how big your text box is or how big your shape is if you're not using if it's transparent or anything. So I'm going to leave that there. So now, well, let me change this color here. If I double click on top of the swatch, I can change the colors here. There's a variety of ways to do color in this document. This is not the most effective way to do it. I think the more effective way is up here in the control bar. So if I were to double click that, whoops, not that. If I were to click on the caret to the side there for the submenu, and I can have swatches of color laid out here. It's a standard CMYK swatch panel for printing purposes, commercial printing. But I can also, double click in here. Whoops, double click one of these to change the color if I want to. And there's a variety of ways to change colors. So I'm just going to leave it here for the demo here. Now you see that there's a blue box. It's on top of my name that I just drew out earlier, and this is very similar to you working at your own table. If you were to put a piece of paper down and then put another piece of paper down on top of that, the one at the bottom would be obscured. I want to show you how to rotate or arrange things so that way you can have everything in the proper place. So in this case, I'm going to select the box, right click on top of the box, and then there's a handy thing called Arrange. The cursor is content aware, so it knows that this box is at the front. If it was in the middle of the stack, it would actually say send it to the front or send it to the back, or send backwards or send forwards. If this is the send backwards or forwards, is basically a step-by-step, and it'll just go through the layers of boxes that you have and then stack it. If you want to go straight to the back, just say to the back. And now my name is on top of the blue shape. So that's how you can rearrange some shapes a little bit. Let's see, a line tool. Line tool, simply do the same action, choose a tool, and then left click and hold the drag, and it drops a line. Again, the line is the last thing placed on the page, so it's on top. If I were to right click on that, it will give me the arrange and go backwards. If I were to select the blue box, it will give me, only bring forward. So my name is the one in the middle that would give me the option of going forwards or backwards. So it knows the stack and the order of all the content you put on the page. Now the shape tool, or the line tool, I'm sorry, only has a stroke, does not have a fill. So there's no need to put a fill in there. It comes automatically with a stroke. If you want to change the thickness, here's a various thickness that you can make it. Or if you want to change it to like a dashed line or a dotted line like that. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that right there. A couple of things you might want to consider as far as the keyboard. Another keyboard command is to press the W key, and it will actually take away all the guidelines. If you were to hit the Tab key, it will take away all the tools. So you can swap, and so you can get a quick view of what everything looks like. I want to zoom out so I can see, here's the Tab key to bring the tools back, and here's the W key to bring the guidelines back. One thing you might want to be aware of is that if I have a shape here, if you come up to the control bar up here, you can see the dimensions of the shape. You can always verify that if it's a square or not just by seeing these two numbers here. And this is a very it's a very precision machine, so it gets into very tenths of an inch or hundreds of thousands of an inch in measurement. If you were to look here at the X and Y coordinates, it actually tells you the position of the box on the page. And it uses the reference point right here as to know where it is on the page. If I want the reference point to be in a very particular corner, you can see this is the reference points for the lower right corner of the box or the upper left corner. Earlier we talked about the bleeds, and I want to show you what that is. So again, if you were to look at your document, you have the black line, which is the actual document. You have the magenta line right here, which is the margin or how close you can go to the edge without losing any typography or any images. And then we have the bleed. So imagine if you were looking at a piece of paper and it was entirely this blue across the entire page from edge to edge. That would look like this to you. But working in the print world, if we want to have that clean blue line all the way to the edge, we actually have to take anything that's an image or a box that is intending to have a clean edge all the way and take it to the bleed line. And what happens when this goes to the printer is that the printer will cut on that black line. And so that way it ensures that it's going to be a nice clean blue piece of paper. If we were to leave this on the document line and the printer comes in here and then the cutter comes in here and cuts and tries to cut on the paper, what happens with paper in the printing world is that it sometimes shifts a little bit, so it kind of gets offline. And so if this was not a perfect line, you would see part of the edge or part of the paper being white or part of the edge missing, so it wouldn't be a clean blue piece of paper. So what we do is that we take it to the bleed line like this. That means the cutter can miss just a little bit, but yet it will drop out the actual document with a clean blue edge. All right. I have another demo that might better demonstrate that when I cut something out. And then the margin line, let's say for instance if I were to do this, I'll zoom in just a little tighter here. You can see here if the printer were to cut on this line, I would lose my parts of my text right there. So that's the importance of keeping that here, and that you can make sure that you get this nice clean edge. And see that I would lose part of my H, so that means I have to come down just a little bit there like that. All right. So that's how you create a line, a shape, and a text box. And